Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. And Hugo, the situation in Del Rio has stirred up outrage really on both sides of the aisle. How is it that President Biden has managed to upset both Republicans and Democrats? And what do you think that says about the Biden administration's border policies?
Well, it is, as you say, it's a remarkable thing that the president has achieved here. Where nobody thinks he's doing a good job at the border. The left think that the deportations of Haitians back to Haiti is cruel and should not happen. And there's a pretty good point about this that they have, and that is that a lot of the Haitians who have been arriving in Del Rio and crossing the Rio Grande haven't been in Haiti for 10 years or more. They didn't just leave because of the recent earthquake. They've been living, whether comfortably or not, in Central and South America for a very long time, a lot of them. And they suddenly find themselves, after President Biden, during his election campaign, tells migrants, you should come. They accept his invitation, they wade across the Rio Grande, and suddenly they find themselves on airplanes back to Haiti, where they haven't lived for a very long time. You can understand, and this is why that they were rebelling actually on a bus. They commandeered a bus, and they wouldn't allow themselves to be taken to the airport, etc., etc. And indeed, the deportations have stopped. And of course, many Haitians are now being allowed to spread out through the United States. The Republicans and conservatives are outraged by what's happening at the border because it's actually probably the most visual and graphic realization of the failed policy that President Biden instituted by scrapping the stay in Mexico policy and by inviting illegal immigrants to come. The pictures of Haitians, I think it's somewhere in the region of 15,000 of them, wading across a weir on the Rio Grande, just shows that the border control is completely lost, the border is open, and his policies are failing. So there's outrage on both sides.
Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas testified before Congress this week that the border now is no less secure than before President Biden took office. And that's obviously not the only tone-deaf statement that we've heard from Biden administration officials about this. How have Biden aides been massaging the truth here, and do you think their messaging has been successful?
Their messaging has been a total catastrophe. I mean, everybody knows that they're just staring into the camera or looking up to the dais where congressmen are questioning them during testimony and telling flat out untruths. Mayorkas suggesting that somehow the border is as secure as it was in the previous administration is an absurdity. There are more than 200,000 illegal immigrants arriving in the country each of the last couple of months. We're going to have 2 million or more illegal immigrants arriving this year, and that's the worst for 20 years. It's clearly not as secure as it was, and indeed that was Biden's policy. Yes, they massage the truth all the time. I mean, not only on this subject, but on many. For example, Afghanistan, which they said should be heralded as a success. So yes, they've been trying to massage the truth on policy, and everyone can see, because there's video clips, that it's utterly false.
And finally, you wrote a column this week about the sort of convenient distraction that was provided by this false narrative surrounding images of horseback-mounted Border Patrol agents allegedly using whips on the migrants. Talk about why the left seized on that.
Well, it's remarkable that suddenly the left became interested in border control, which they've been uninterested in for a very long time, because they were able to attack the Border Patrol officers. You know, there's one thing that the left loves to do, perhaps more than anything else, and that is to erode the authority of security forces. There were videos of mounted border protection officers trying to keep back the migrants crossing the river. They were on horseback, and they had in their hands the long reins that they have for controlling the animals. These were described in various news reports, seized on by people like Representative Rashida Tlaib, as whips, which the officers were said to be cracking like slave drivers at the Haitians. There was nothing of the sort. Mounted police, mounted security forces, use horses. This is what the horses are there for, to be able to move up and down the line quickly to stop people from crowds from moving in a direction. I think that the left seized on these to suggest that somehow there was a cruel and racist policy, when all that the officers are trying to do was do their jobs and control the border. And it was an absolute outrage when the Homeland Security Secretary, Mayorkas, went on TV to say how horrified he was and how deeply or profoundly disturbing this was. He should be backing these officers up, not just going along with the left-wing flow.
Well, Hugo, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Hugo and the rest of the commentary team at WashingtonExaminer.com.